Good evening, everybody. It is September 12th, 2021. Bitcoin had a bunch of chop right around the daily close today, which is pretty typical, to be honest. Weekend action, I never trust, especially Sunday night. So we had this dump right before the close and then pumped up after, and now we dump back down after that. But anyway, I think we've probably sufficiently finished off this C wave at this point. Probably. So we'll see. I mean, we can still see more choppy action going forward, but pretty much once we break down below this point, that 44.2, like I've been saying, I would expect some further downside from there. So let's go ahead and take that fib off just to make it more clear. And then what I'll do is do a fib extension from here. This is the start of this little micro one, potential micro one, I should say. And then up to here, that's the possible 2 there, which is what we were looking to make here with this ABC. Would be the 2 to go along with this 1, and then we can project downwards from here and see where this might take us. So based on this, we should see something along these lines. We've got our 1 there, we've got our 2 there. 3 should come somewhere down here, 41 to 42 in this area, with a 4 up here and then a 5 down to the low 40,000 region. So the question then, if this does play out, the question then is, is that the extent of it, or do we have further down to go from there? So let me change the color on this just a little bit, and let's take a quick look at that. And make that green. All right. So we've had this green box, this big green box on here, as the ideal place for a retrace, because I still think we're working on a second wave down here, right? So we've got our first wave that went up to here, and we're working on the second wave down. So these yellow fibs are the areas that I'm looking at to hold. And actually this projects down exactly to that 382, about 40,700, which really would be a very nice place for it to hold in a second wave. So I think we'll see what it looks like at that time, but I think that might be all we get. And I'm just trying to figure out where we might be in the larger count to try to get some confluence for that being the end, because it's kind of weird to have, we have this big dump down here, some consolidation, and then potentially we're going to get 5 waves down here. It would be a little bit strange for that to be the end of a correction. So I'm gonna have to think about how that actually works, but I think I'm not sure. Because this should be, in the larger sense of things, this should be the 1 here potentially, and a 2 up here. That's what you're looking at, and that's what this blue fib is, and this one projects down to like 30K. So that is still a possibility we need to watch for, but but I think as far as just micro downside goes, let's keep an eye on that 40K region anyway, because that lines up with this 382 pretty nicely. And let's see if we get a reaction from there and a clear 5 waves up. Might be best to wait for that. I think it might be a decent idea to put some Bitcoin or some cash back into Bitcoin at this level, like right around 40 to 41. But really, this is not going to give us a confirmed confirm that we're bullish until we get 5 waves up off of some sort of low. And potentially we can see that in the micro. Maybe we see a micro 5-wave up, something like that, which might give us a better read on the situation. But I think at the moment all I can really suggest doing though is let's just keep following this micro path here, assuming it does do that. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on these levels in the micro sense, and go from there, and just keep track of the action as it comes. That's usually the best way to deal with these things. So let's wait till we get down to that 40K region before we start exploring potentially going lower than that. All right, here's the bad news. Sorry, these multiple fibs are kind of confusing me here. Bad news is this blue fib right here is this being our 1 and 2 of a larger move. This little action here takes us down right about between the 618 and the 764 of that blue fib, which is actually a pretty decent place for a first wave of a deeper move to go. So this very well could be the first wave down within a larger move, which would take us down into that 30K region. So what we're going to see then, what we're going to need to watch then, is this blue 382 at 43,725. Okay, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but if we get down into this region, and then we get what is clearly 3 waves up to 43.7 or so, then I'm going to expect from there an even further acceleration to the downside, which would take us all the way to 33 to 35 between the 1618 and the 1382 on that blue fib. And then we'd have a little relief bounce and then a final move down into this 31K area. So that is certainly within the realm of possibility at this point. So like I said, let's not not panic at this point, but I am certainly happy to have stopped out into cash, and I've got some short hedges now on Bitcoin, and we'll just see what happens. So I'm ready for anything really. If it gets out of this mess and somehow breaks up above that 47.4 area, then we can start exploring the possibility that the correction's already over. But at the moment, this is looking like the most likely scenario to me, at least filling in these 5 waves and getting down to about 40, maybe 41K, somewhere in there. So all right, I think that pretty much sums up what I'm looking at, and we'll see tomorrow what actually happens overnight here, if it confirms or denies this action, this expectation here. So yeah, all right, good night everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.